Now, today we're going to go through all of the types. There are five of them, and the strategy for each of those types. And then we'll talk about the authority, and then we'll also talk about definition. So I want you to think of each of the types, and it's important that you know not only your own type and your own strategy, but people around you, right? So if you need to, you can always go to my website and get a chart generated for the people in your family, particularly a spouse or your children, so that you have an idea of how all of you are working together, because each type has a role that it's playing in the world. And as roles usually are, they're completely different and they have different ways of interacting. They have different rules of the road, so to speak. And it would be very important for you to understand not only how you work and operate in the world, but how people in your family do. And what I found with human design is it gives us a whole new perspective on how to get along, right? That when somebody's being a certain way and it annoys you, it's really them just maybe being true to themselves. And by the same token, if you're engaged in a behavior that other people don't really like, it is really probably just you being you, right? So knowing who you are and how you are here to be in the world is huge in terms of making sure that everybody is getting taken care of. Now, when we have the manifester, we're going to deal with them in this order here. So the manifester, their role is a producer. If you think of this as a play or a movie, the role of the manifester is the producer, but their actual role in the world is that of the initiator. Manifestors are really rare. They only make up about 8 or 9% of the population. And they are the ones that create the beginning of something. They initiate something. And they don't need anybody's permission to be able to do that. They are not waiting for any outside recognition. They're not waiting for anything to inspire them outside of themselves. Their inspiration comes directly from within. And they're really the ones that are here to go out into the world and just do it, sort of like the Nike, swish. They're the type that can initiate something without waiting, except those that have emotional authority. And we'll talk more about that as time goes on here. Manifestors have access to tremendous life force energy in the form of creativity, right? It's not life force energy like the generators have, that is sustainable life force. It is creative, initiating energy. Yet, because they don't have access to the sustainable life force energy, they have to be very aware of how their energy is flowing and whether they're getting tired or not. Manifestors are most successful in the world when they inform people who will be impacted by their decisions. So that's kind of their strategy. We're going to get into strategy more too. The generator types, their role is the crew. They're the workers, right? We are the builders of the world. So the generator types are here to build the world, and they are, by example of the manifester, they have access to sustainable life force energy where the manifestors do not. So generators are sort of the energizer bunnies. They can keep going and going and going, and they have a lot of access to that life force energy throughout their lives. The same with manifesting generators. They would also be in the role of crew, as they are workers, builders, movers and shakers. And their strategy, when we get into that, is a little different than that of the generator. But these two types make up about 70% of the population. So it's a good bet that about 70% of us here today are either generator or manifesting generators. When we get to the projector's role would be the director, right? The director of the movie or the director of the play. They are here to guide and lead, manage. Their energy is very much more passive energy than the generator types. And they are here to really lead when they are invited into the world to share their wisdom. Now, the reflectors, they are the rarest. Oh, by the way, projectors make up about 22% of the population. Reflectors are less than 1% of the population. Their role, they're the audience, right? So we have the producer, we have the crew, we have the director, and now we have the audience because reflectors are here as wise observers. They are observing and reflecting back to the world the general health of the group or the family or the project. Right. Those are our five types. And I'm pretty sure you all know which type you are. Now, when we're looking at the body graph, the body graph has these different energy centers, and the different energy centers all have different roles. So, first, we're going to take a look at the motors because the motors are really what is determining type, right? If you have a motor that goes straight to the throat, you might be a manifester. If you have a motor that is going nowhere, doesn't go to the throat, then you might be a generator. So this is how, learning these types of things helps us determine why it is you might be a manifester versus a projector or a generator versus a manifesting generator and so on. So the four motors are down here toward the bottom. It's made up by the heart or the will center. And I hope you guys can see my cursor going around here because I forgot to turn it to pink so you could really see it. Um, but this is the center that we think of as the heart or the will center. You may sometimes hear it called the ego center, but it is a motor and its motor energy flows in a sort of start and then stop. It has this initiating energy and then it goes to rest. So the um, heart center works to rest. Now, the problem with that kind of a motor is that we as humans have free will and we can keep pushing, 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 even when this energy stops or goes to rest. So we have to be very careful and wise with this center when we are dealing with it as a motor. Only 1/8 of the population has this center defined, which means it would be colored in red in your human design. The other 7/8 of the population have it just like this, where it's open, right? It's open. So it means here that we have a lot of people in the world who believe they have willpower, who believe they have perseverance and determination and tenacity and will push and push and push until they burn out. Where the other 1/8 of the population has this energy defined and they can get away with that kind of energy a little bit better than the people who have it open. Now, we also have this as a motor. This is the solar plexus. The solar plexus is the center for emotional energy and for creativity. And it is a motor that has a wave form that it flows in. So a waveform meaning that it goes from the low to the high and then down again. Some people have a very quick wave. It might be a what we would call a tribal wave. Don't worry if you don't understand that term yet. Some people have an emotional wave that's really high and then drops really low. And then other people have a more precipitous rise to the top and fall to the bottom. So there are different types of waves in the emotional center and as a motor. The sacral is this square here at the bottom, or second up from the bottom, and it is the center for life force energy. This is where we have sustainable life force energy, by the way. And if you have this white, like this person's chart here is in the white, then you do not have access to sustainable life force energy. You are likely a projector or a reflect. No, you're not a reflector because you have other centers defined, but you could also be a manifester, although this is the chart of a projector. If you have this colored in red, you have access to this sustainable life force energy. It is a motor that is always on. It does not shut off. So you wake up in the middle of the night, you can get going right away if this center is defined. And the root center, which might be a little bit hidden here under this panel, the root center is the very bottom square. It is the center for this energy that pushes us outward into the world. Sometimes I think of this as the center for action that is in the waiting, right? It's needing to be pushed outward, but it is also a motor and it also pulses on and off. And its pulse is a little different than the heart or the will center in that this pulses with life force that's stress induced. And when this is open like this, it's a person that has a lot of stress, perhaps, that they don't always deal with very well. When it's defined, it's a person that has no less stress, but has a way of dealing with the stress. All right. I hope that makes sense for everybody. So these
Mhm.
four centers here are the motors. Now, when we look at whether we are dealing with a chart of a manifestor or projector, what have you, the first thing we want to look at is the open or undefined sacral. So we look here at this center. If this is open, this could be a manifestor, a projector, or a reflector, right? The open sacral, the only type that has defined sacral is the generator and the manifesting generator. Okay. The other three types have this white. That's like one clue. You look at a chart and you look down there at that center. If it's white, you know you're dealing with one of these um, open or undefined types. If it is red, you're dealing with a manifesting generator or a generator. So here's a picture of what it looks like when it's defined. And what defines it, again, is the gates at either end that connect to a center. Okay. That's what's defining the center because the 46 joins up to the 29 and the 15 joins up to the 5. All right. And this could be a generator or a manifesting generator. We're going to talk more about how to tell the difference. All right. Now, what do we mean by strategy? Because every type has a strategy. Strategy in human design is basically a specific way of making decisions. And it can also be a specific behavior that is associated with that type. And each type has a unique strategy. Um, they are either here to initiate, to wait to respond, to wait for the invitation. Some people are here to just go within and figure that next, what that strategy is from within them. And strategy flows both ways in either case. So it means that if you're a manifester, let's say, and your strategy is to inform, then you also like to be informed, right? So if we're telling you that you have to inform before you take action, then you're also someone that likes to be informed before others take action. So strategy mode goes both ways. Um, when you live your strategy according to your type, it means that you are in alignment with living authentically, right? And that the gift in living authentically is pretty priceless, right? We all want to be able to live authentically.
Yes.
Okay, right? So, strategy in human design again means a specific way of behaving and making a decision. Each type has its unique strategy, and strategy flows both ways. And we want to live our strategy because then we're living authentically. Now, the manifestor strategy is about informing others before taking action. Now, remember, these are initiators, these are creative beings, and they don't like to wait. They don't necessarily need anybody's permission to take action. But when they take action without informing the people that will be impacted by their decisions, they tend to encounter resistance and they don't like resistance. And when they get resistance, it causes them to get angry, right? That's their theme, their emotional theme is anger. So they want to be able to inform others before taking action. It's getting them to slow down long enough to do that. That becomes the problem. But when they do it, wow, their lives change. I've had many manifestors that I've done readings with. And as soon as I tell them that, they're like, yes, of course. Now, they're not asking permission, as I said, they're just saying, okay, hey, I'm just letting you know that next week I'm going to be out of town and I won't be able to answer emails, right? You're not slowing down to say, okay, is it okay if I go out of town? La, la, la. You're just saying, this is what I'm doing, just letting you know. Okay. Generators are here to, their strategy is to wait to respond. And let me just qualify that a little further. Wait to respond until there's something in their outside world to respond to. They cannot respond from inner world type of things. They can't respond to inspiration, to meditation, to anything that comes up from within. Like I have a dream, well, I had a dream last night, blah, blah, blah. That's still generated from within. They have to wait then until it's outside of them that they can respond to. And it can be literally anything in their outer world. It could be a song on the radio that they hear. It could be a chance comment that they overhear. It could be literally a billboard that they see, that corresponds to something they had been thinking about or something that they wanted to do, or a relationship they wanted to pursue further, or a job that they wanted to go to. But they can't do it from the idea phase. They can only do it from outside of them. And when they have it outside of them, then that is a sign from the universe that, hey, moving in this direction might be the right thing for you to do. Now, manifesting generators are very much like generators in that they are also waiting to respond to something outside of them before they take action. But they're kind of a hybrid between the manifester and the generator. So they also have the informing others before taking action, like the manifester does. And it's a long way for them. Manifesting generators are not necessarily patient, right? That is probably one of the biggest things they're here to work on is patience. So for the manifesting generator, we also need to give them tools to work with in between the time that they have this idea and the time that the world shows them something on the outer world or on the outside that they can respond to. And usually what we say is, in the meantime, while you're waiting for something to respond to, you might just think about who's in this project with you. What does it feel like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? Who is there with you? And, fill in the details. Do a lot of visualizing, right? Visualizing and reprocessing how in your own, mind, how this will look when it's done. Don't take action until you have something in the outer world to respond to. But at least we give a manifesting generator some tools in between the time they have the idea and the time they take action. Because if we don't, they are the ones that will more than likely want to leap into doing something not right for them. Projectors. Now, this is probably the most misunderstood strategy of all of them. A projector needs to wait for an invitation before joining into the big things in life. Now, the big things in life would be relationships, would be jobs, would be relocation from one place to another, any big expenditure of money, buying a house, selling a house, all these things that are big decisions in a life are the ones that projectors need to wait for an invitation. But an invitation isn't as specific as it sounds. Like you don't need to wait for someone to write you permission slip that says, yes, you can do this now. Because likely it's not going to happen that way. Right? It's just
That must
not
be
going to
hard.
happen.
That must be hard for like projectors that are single, like dating in the dating world. Like, so do I wait for
Yes.
the that
But
would have drove me
here's the
crazy.
thing about an invitation. An invitation could just be somebody across the room that catches your eye, right? They looked at you. And that could be an invitation, especially if you're drawn in by them across the room looking at you. This could be the opportunity that acts as an invitation, right? Sometimes it's a comment or a conversation that you're overhearing as a projector, and you're like, "Oh, that's really interesting." Um, you can actually sort of ask questions of those people that you're hearing the conversation from, and they're response could draw you in as an invitation. And literally, that's not them saying, oh, hey, I invite you to come in and talk to me. But I ask the question, ooh, what you're talking about sounds really interesting. Can I
Mhm.
ask you a question about it? And they say, yes, well, you're drawn in, you're invited.
And y'all
You
have something
actually,
in common. Yeah,
yep,
that's happened to me before.
right. Who's speaking right now?
Me, Julie.
Julie?
Yeah,
Are you a projector?
I am.
Oh, awesome. So that's why you're resonating with this.
Yeah, I'm all
Uh,
waiting for the invite.
okay, gotcha, gotcha,
But
gotcha.
no, no, it's great information, you know.
Uh-huh. So the invitation for a projector can come from literally anywhere. You sort of have to sit down and just sort of trust that if there is an opportunity that the universe isn't going to hold it back from you, if it's correct for you, your strategy waiting for the invitation is number one, protecting your energy because you don't have access to sustainable life force energy. And number two, it's making sure that you don't end up getting involved in a project or in something that is not the right thing. And then energetically, you're not available when the right thing comes along. So projectors really need to learn this idea of having trust and faith that the universe will deliver you the invitation to the right things, right relationship, the right project, the right job, the right home, the right vacation, via that invitation. Reflectors. In a reflector's chart, they have no centers defined. It is completely open. And because they are what we would call lunar beings, a lunar being just means that it's only the moon as it's moving around their chart on a daily basis that can help them define a center or a channel and or a gate even. So in order to make good decisions, big decisions, they have to wait for the full cycle of the moon to be able to understand what is right for them. And while they are waiting, they can be discussing options with people that they love and trust. The key for a reflector is to make sure that they surround themselves by good people, by people who love them, by people who they can trust to give them good feedback. They need good sounding boards in their lives. All right, so those are the strategies for the five types.